Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for another office hours training. I am Crystal L. Gunn, your financial strategist and life insurance agent. And it is 2 days before Thanksgiving, but it's still November and it's still National Long-Term Care Awareness Month. And so all month I've been providing information and things to consider as it relates to long-term care and long-term care insurance. And yesterday I told you that I would have a guest today. And I'm so honored to have met him, to know him, and to now be in partnership with him. We're going to bring him in here and let him introduce himself. So, Gerald Scruggs, come on in here and introduce yourself.
Hey, man. Well, thank you, Crystal. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gerald Scruggs Sr. I am the president and CEO of Your Benefit Solutions. We are a full-service insurance brokerage, wealth management, as well as HR and payroll services. I have been in the insurance industry going on almost 25 years now. I've had the pleasure of being in charge of overseeing the service for the Detroit Board of Education, the City of Detroit, the Police Department, the Fire Department, Greektown Casino, and the AFGE Federal Government Union, as well as the School District of LAUSD in California for 4 years. And so I'm back here in Michigan now. I have my own brokerage firm, and I've had the pleasure of, through a mutual friend, meeting my now good friend, Mr. Crystal Gunn, as well. We happen to have a common goal in being in the same industry, and it was just a natural fit, and we didn't have to force anything. It just happened.
Absolutely.
So, and I just want to say thank you for having me here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so honored. So you have a history, and which speaks for itself. Literally, as you were saying it, I got chills because that just means this thing is so right. But what made you go into this industry in the first place?
Wow. This is, we don't have enough time, but I'll give you the short version. But it's so funny because 25 years ago, I was a purchasing manager in the automotive industry. And then I was unceremoniously laid off, went on vacation to move my daughter from Auburn, Alabama A&M down to Auburn, came back to work on a Friday, which I don't normally do. You always come back on from vacation on a Monday, not a Friday. And so 2 minutes to 4, I'm going to clean my coffee cup as usual, my ritual, use the bathroom, then we ready to go home. Mm-hmm. And the HR manager, I passed by his office going to mine. He said, Gerald, when you get a minute, I need to see you in the conference room. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know you're not calling a manager's meeting on Friday at 4. No, that's Monday. We don't do meetings on Friday at 4 o'clock. And so I go in here, and there's nobody in here. None of the other 7 managers are here, just me. And I don't know if you watch, I'm kind of a Godfather Goodfellas fan. If you ever seen when you get called in and only you and this other one person, I feel like it was a hit. And sure enough, he slides an envelope across the table to me. And I'm like, I open it up, and it said, you are indefinitely laid off, a euphemism for you fired. Right. But on paper, they put laid off so I can collect workman's comp.
Right.
I don't workman's comp, I'm sorry, unemployment. And I'm like, wow. And so at the same time, I got laid off. My wife, who's an investigator for the state of Michigan, was on disability. And so here we are. And then a couple minutes after that, we found out we had 2 grandchildren out in California getting ready to get put into an orphanage. So now all of a sudden, I'm laid off my job. Wife is on disability. We about to try to adopt 2 grandchildren who were 6 and 3, by the way. Oh. And I'm like, and your income goes from, about $200,000-300,000 a year to zero. You end up on food stamps. And so then consequently, we went to the state of Michigan, trying to get some aid and all that. They said, well, she can stay off, but you got to go get a job. And I'm like, but I got to take care of her, going back to physical therapy 3 times a week and doctor's appointments. And so I went to a job fair at Troy, and I met my mentor, Mr. Bill Hill. him and his wife, lovely wife, Marlene. So I love him to this day. And they got me started. In fact, all these insurance people I passed because my wife, who was on disability, we were told that we said, even though she had long-term disability, supposed to pay her to 65, that her coworkers told us, said, watch, after 1 year, they're going to stop you. And we're like, no, the doctors have said she can never go back to work again from her injuries, you know. And sure enough, when she got that 12th month check, the next day there was a letter that said we are discontinuing your benefits, even though she had letters from 4 of the top pain management specialists in the country who said this woman cannot work again, never. And so anyway, we had ended up so of course now I can't stand insurance companies. So the fact that I ended up in insurance business was
Right.
truly an act of God. And so like I said, I walked by all these people. I'm like, man, get away from me. You know, insurance people. And at the very end was Mr. Hill. He said, yeah, I saw you when you came in. He tells the story about how I saw this distinguished gentleman with his blue suit come in and, you know, passing up all the other people. And I got to him and just so happened I'm like, okay, what you got to say? You know, you was the only brother there from insurance company. But then he started telling the story and found out we had some common people and people we knew in common. They happened to go to the same church. Okay, his wife's a minister at Hartford. Oh, okay, I'll give you a little chance. So the rest was history. We came on board and boom, it was built to he already had the city of Detroit account, the Detroit Public Schools and everything. And so that's how I got my start, indoctrinated. He was one of the top people in Colonial, not to mention one of the few African Americans. So that was a blessing for me. That's how I got started. And just about everything I learned in the business I got from him. So that took.
Okay. I need to ask though, how is it that your wife had all of the documentation from all of the doctors that says no, she'll never be able to go back to work, and the insurance company after a year can say we're cutting off your benefits? Like, how
I
does
have.
that even work?
Well, this was some company who had because again, she worked for the state of Michigan, and somebody and evidently this was a common pattern because she had 3 or 4 coworkers who knew people, and 1 or 2 of them had the same thing happen to them. Said that you're gonna say, watch, we know that you're disabled, you can't work, you got this and this injury. I mean, we're talking occipital. She had the 3rd and 4th vertebra
Hmm.
was broken,
Hmm.
impinged nerves. She had not carpal tunnel, Lord, I forgot the name of what it's called, but it was a nervous condition that there technically was no cure for.
Hmm.
And they tried to do all the things. They gave her the talking computer, the ergonomic chairs. We're gonna make every comment, and it still was not working. And so she was told by her coworkers, "Watch, they're gonna cut you off." She's like, "Well, no, I ain't got to worry about that. I got the paperwork that says I can never work again." It did make a difference. It was a case of where what you hear about some insurance companies that a lot of them just arbitrarily, we're gonna pay you up to this time, or if you do, it's gonna be such a hard, difficult time. And I guess this was just the reputation that this particular insurance company had because eventually the state got rid of them because of too many complaints. I
Hmm.
don't even recall what the name is, but so like I said, they did that, and we had to end up suing, you know. But in the meantime, the bill's
Right.
still going on. We still got rent,
Yeah.
car notes. We got, like I
Yeah.
said, these 2 little mouths to feed now. On top of our own, we got a 6 and 3 who we're talking about special needs children who came from abusive
Oh,
relationships. So there
yeah.
was, trust me, the day they got off the plane, the next day we were in counseling for like 4 hours. It
Wow.
was, you would not, they were, you know, unfortunately sexually abused, being abused, the stuff they saw their mother doing. It was like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, this is not what, you know, we'd already raised my child and she had a child. We didn't put them already in college. Now we starting all over. And it's like, oh, Jesus. So
Starting all over
it,
with
it wasn't pretty.
our,
Okay, Chris, I
yeah.
was not corking champagne, popping champagne and
Right.
saying, hey, whoopee. But we lived through it. I mean, it was truly that I saw God go to work, though. Like I
Right.
said, because there was times when we didn't know how we was going to make it, but I had mysterious people, envelopes and checks show up in the house of $500 here, 600. One friend just showed up. He said, God told him that. We had told nobody.
Right.
If you didn't know me, in fact, there
Yeah.
might have been one person, that was my best friend. He was in Texas.
Right.
Nobody at the church knew what was going on. We still showed up on Sunday. We served. I was on ushering, and we were doing ministerial assistant work. But through that time until I got my job, that was what was happening. And then when I did, I just put my head down and went to work. And next thing, I was first year, I was the agent of the year. In 6 months' time, qualified to go on my first trip, and every year after that, they've sent me around the world and paid well, paid the kids through college, bought a house, few cars, and raised the children. So it was truly God's hand on me. And in the meantime, I was learning so much that I didn't even know I was learning stuff. I was just having fun. I had to call my manager one day. I'm like, man, you sure this stuff is legal? When you're having fun, you helping people, you're getting paid well. It's like, this is what, you talk about in a fantasy world, but this was reality. And I was like, whoa, this is like crazy. You look forward to getting up and going to work. And then when I had clients, would call and just tell me thank you. Some couple of them wrote letters to the president of the company and tell them thank you for the policy they purchased from me, and how, like, one of them specific was a cancer policy. A lady didn't necessarily want it. I told her about my story, my mother being diagnosed with cancer and all the expenditures my father had to come out of his pocket in spite of having insurance. And so she bought the plan. 6 months later, her husband was diagnosed, and she was against getting it. And she ended up getting paid like about $60,000. She said, Gerald, that saved my household. She said, because we would not been able to stay in our house. Kids could not have stayed in the school there. Said we would have just lost everything. And so she called me crying and tell me, every time she see me, she's a break down and start crying and tell everybody, she say, this is my insurance man. If you want insurance, you got to go to him. And I'm like, I was just doing my job,
So you were just doing your job, true. However, because I know there would be someone listening, right? And the insurance man, the insurance woman. Like, I love it because we do get to actually have this great impact in people's lives.
Yes.
So for someone listening that has a passion for helping and also wants to make money, like, why is the insurance industry a good industry to be in?
Well, you know what? I learned this. I look at something I got from church. You got to have a heart. Jesus is our model. You got to have a heart of servitude. It's about, if you're doing the right thing, serving people. I think I look back at my mother. My mother was a registered nurse, and especially when COVID, they really, nurses were brought out the importance of them. You got to have a heart for people, serving people and taking care of people to do certain jobs. And this is one, because I've had to fire several people who worked for us, who they were just out about making a sale. I'll tell you anything you want to hear that this policy will do, just so I can get the money to do whatever my little vice or habit or whatever I want to do. And no, but if you do the right thing, like my father always told me, because my father owned the station, that's where I got my first job at 13 years old. And he said, just take care of the people. The rest will take care of itself. Your business will take care of itself. Clients will come. The money will come. You don't have to search it out, but it's about taking care of people. And nothing could be truer than that. It's about serving the people, even though it may not look like the time, trust me, it comes back around so many times, so many ways, exponentially.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I love about it is the impact that you get to have on people.
And like I said, when I got letters from clients calling me and crying and telling me, thank you, Gerald, thank you. And then they sending letters, because this is at least 4 people I know, clients I have, who are still clients today for 20 plus years, who wrote to the president to tell them, thank you, and on my behalf, that something I suggested to them, and they did. And then, heaven forbid, that particular situation happened, that policy covered, it paid them thousands and thousands of dollars that they don't know how they would have paid for to get the care so that they could still be around today.
Absolutely.
And that's just huge. And I always reinforce to agents that I've hired in the past when I had a team is taking care of people, because you don't know, just like you can do something right to help somebody, your lack of not attention to detail can you can ruin somebody.
For sure.
I worked with a client, agent who we saw, who within one of our groups, the police department, the officer, he bought like a $500,000 life insurance policy. Of course, he had to get blood urine passed, all that stuff. Guess what? In her quest, all she saw was, okay, I'm getting paid X number of hundreds of dollars. She didn't turn in a deduction card. 4 months later, the police officer got in an accident, died. Wasn't until the family went to make the claim, oh, that policy lapsed 2 months ago. We never got any premium. It was traced back to they didn't get the premium because the agent who was so lackadaisical didn't turn in the deduction card.
Yeah.
All she thought about was how much am I getting paid next week?
And
didn't think nothing about, okay, you made the sale, but also turn in the deduction card so
doing the job.
to be paid on deduction, because policies, even if once you're approved, for those who don't know, even if you're approved for a life insurance policy, it is not activated until the insurance company receives that first month's premium. That first premium, whether it's payroll deducted, that biweekly deduction, or if it's something you're paying in direct, or that first monthly payment. Until then, that policy is not active, and the insurance company is not obligated to enforce the policy and pay out if something happens to you.
Okay, let's fast forward to 2024.
2024.
2024, I get a text message on a Thursday night from our mutual friend, Sheila. And she says, hey, I want to introduce you to a partner friend of mine. And can you come to the office to meet? I want to show you some information. I said, okay. Now, you got to understand how many calls like that I get. And because it was Sheila, I said, I got a short list of people that the answer is always yes. I said, okay, sure, I'm coming. So I come. You're sitting in that office. And you start talking about this information we're going to share today. But I want to start with some statistics. Why these policies are important, but I think it's important to talk about the statistics first. And then after that, how you went and created such a dynamic thing. So let's just talk about some of those statistics that you have that you shared with me on that day, which are absolutely unbelievable and alarming.
Okay. Well, first of all, in 2023, just last year, 152 million people, that's 152 million people lives were affected by cancer. Either they themselves or they have a family member or friend or colleague who passed from cancer. They either that or they were diagnosed themselves. In fact, my wife and I, our daughter, who's only 40 years old, just went through her second bout of cancer. Praise God, she's had her last treatment a couple months ago. The tumor's gone, but still, our lives were affected. She had to be off work. It costs money. Okay, bills don't stop. Either you're diagnosed and then being treated, or the third group, you're a cancer survivor. Then the fourth group, you happen to be a caregiver. Caregivers have, the cancer will financially affect them just as much as if you're the person who's been diagnosed with it and fighting the disease all by yourself. Then also they said there are 18 million cancer survivors today. Unfortunately, my mother was not one of them who survived. She fought it for about a year and a half. Next, this is information from the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association. The top 4 leading causes of death among African Americans / Black, Latinos, Hispanic, Asian Americans, and Native Americans are heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes. And one of the immediate effects of diabetes, kidney failure.
So let's stop right there for a moment. So in our community, we tend to care for our ill, the sick at home, right? For a whole host of reasons. And you mentioned and you talked about that caregiver piece. Caregiving is hard.
Yes.
It is hard, right? I watch my mom do it for my dad. Like, it is hard. And I don't care how much love there is. Caregiving is hard. Caregivers need a break, right? So we care for the ill in our homes. And again, commendable to do so. But a lot of times it's because of the cost associated with being able to put someone to be able to be in a facility or to have someone come in the house, because regular health care doesn't cover those things. The nurse will come in, but to be able to cook a meal, to be able to clean someone up, to be able to do all of those other things that go along with caregiving, that's typically out of pocket. And You go ahead, because I know you got
A real life case in point, just this past year, my wife, I saw firsthand, okay, her mother, who was 90, we had just celebrated her 95th birthday. Now, mama, she was spry little 95-year-old. She'll get with you in a minute, okay? But she was still living in her house in Southfield, nice 3-bedroom ranch, uh, taking care of herself. We come pick her up, take her to her little doctor's appointments and stuff like that. But then, let's see, last year was 2023. So that would have been November of 2022. She got a little ill. She already had a little case onset to dementia. We started seeing little things. So now, here, all of a sudden, we had to my wife just happened to be going over there and notice all this smoke in the house. Come to find out, mama done turned the stove on, went back to watching her cowboy movies, forgot the stoves on down there, burned the house down. We like, okay, mama, time out. That's it. We had to disconnect the stove. It wasn't about don't you cook no more.
exactly.
We literally had to disconnect her stove and her microwave so that she couldn't do nothing. And we had now hired a chef. We had to pay a chef to paying for like 30 days for 3 weeks worth of meals at a time. That wasn't cheap. So the mom, I'm talking breakfast, lunch, dinner. So mama could eat, didn't have to worry about it. All she'd do is take it out the microwave and heat it up. Out the freezer. And so, but then all of a sudden, she got strict with COVID at the end of December after Christmas time. So for about a month in January, she was in and out the hospital about 3 different times. Then all of a sudden, that COVID took her down. Probably in February, boom. We thought mom was doing good, and all of a sudden she was hit. We don't know how. Bedridden from February all the way to November. We had to now have a full-time nurse to come into the house. One of my wife's siblings had to literally leave her family, and Monday through Friday, when she came home from work, was there taking care of the mother. And I'm talking about like a little baby. You had to feed her, literally put the food in her mouth. You had to wash her down, change the bed, change her diaper. It was just like a newborn baby.
Yeah.
But she just had, now the wear and tear is unreal. And then of course my wife had the power of attorney. She had handle all the financial stuff, but arranging for the hospice care, all these doctor's appointments, we had to now pay extra. Doctors had to come to her because mama now couldn't leave the house. All these things that she had to be moved to go somewhere. We had to hire an ambulance. My wife had to take care of the bills. Still had to be paid. The house is paid for, but you still got property taxes, all the utilities and everything else. And then it got to the point the money started going down, but we saying, wait a minute, but mama's still alive and well and kicking, but she's in this condition, and the wear and tear on the family, I'm talking psychological as well as people getting kind of antsy. I may love you, but all of a sudden you say hi wrong, Crystal, we fight.
Yeah.
It was rough. And then the money we knew would not make it, but thank God we had to put in facilities probably the last 3.5 months of her life. But now money gone, but thank God, but we had to sell the house. But they're one of the fortunate ones who had the resources, but what about those people who don't have those resources?
Exactly.
Just like I saw with my mother 30 years earlier when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. My dad didn't have the best insurance there was, but unfortunately, from the time my mother was diagnosed when she passed, he came out of his pocket by probably close to $75,000, and I know that's the number because I wrote the checks for him. Okay, but again, what about the people who don't have those resources?
Exactly.
And that's what started us on our mission to do this. And so, like I said, that was a long-term care situation. But she was in the situation, but unfortunately didn't have it. But again, one of those blessed few that had it. But now, from a financial standpoint, if you're trying to create generational wealth, and you may have that, I know this happened to my father. He had money we had set aside. We talked about it. He gonna leave this for me and my sister. That money was gone by the time after my mother passed. Daddy probably lived another 10 months right after that. He passed. And so by that time, there was nothing. So now we're talking about elimination of generational wealth. Even if it was put in place, this calamity happened. But there's things that can prevent that. And that was what drove us to start the program, start doing the research. And we found it may not be the silver bullet, but it's the secret sauce. It can definitely reduce, if not, but with the goal of eradicating that health disparity.
Okay, so you've been in the industry 25 plus years. You've seen any and every and all type of policies that come through. What made you say, and now we're going to start to get to the particulars of the policy. What made you say we have to have something different?
Okay. Well, first of all, the first thing was finding an insurance carrier who, again, looking at my mother's situation and my mother-in-law's just last year. Okay, now I got to put on my insurance cap. I'm seeing, okay, if you'd have had this particular policy, in the case of my mother, certainly the cancer policy, because it pays you for hospital confinement, out any surgeries you have, radiation and chemo, full-time nursing service, travel benefit. If you had to have a bone marrow transplant, full-time nurse coming to the house. My mother had a nurse come 3-4 times a day. Our plan pays you, I think, about $100 per visit. So that could have been money in my father's pocket that he would not have had to write the check out of. And there's about 40 something different benefits. First and foremost, there's what's called an initial diagnosis benefit that pays you $10,000 on day one. So if you go to the doctor says, well, I'm sorry, Mrs. So-and-so, you've been diagnosed with such and such type of cancer. You get a copy of the pathology report, the blood protest, turn that in the insurance company. Immediately they send you a check for $10,000. So this way you can concentrate on getting well as opposed to, oh my God, now I can't work for 6 months. How are we going to pay the house, no the car, no the rent, utilities, oh, kids need braces, so-and-so's in school, car broke down, the furnace is gone, I need a new hot water heater. Life still goes on.
Life still goes on.
We ain't talking about I need this care. Oh yeah, insurance is gonna pay 90%. The cost of 100,000, insurance gonna pay 90%. That's 90,000. I still got to come up with 10 grand.
Yeah.
You don't have the 10 grand? Sorry, we can't treat you until you get it.
Yeah.
Now we talking premature death. So again, that's just one part. That was the cancer part. But again, let's go back to life insurance, because even if a person now says, okay, if I know my chances of living are slim, and maybe you don't have life insurance, you've been diagnosed with cancer. No insurance company's gonna touch you.
Right.
No insurance. But we were able to go and negotiate with a major carrier after I went through a list of them, all the top biggies. Find one who would offer guaranteed issue with absolutely no health questions, life insurance with long-term care.
Okay, hold on. So I was talking to somebody who, a client, they need life insurance for their grown son. And cannot get it because of issues going on with him. And I said, well, no, this policy will be guaranteed issue. And she immediately said, oh no, but I've heard of the guaranteed issues. I talked to people about guaranteed issue policies, but they all tell me that the insured has to still live for another 12 to 24 months in order for the death benefit to be paid out.
Correct.
Right? So in my mind, those aren't true guaranteed issue.
You are correct.
Policies. So how does what we have differ?
Well, first of all insurance companies have, when you're talking about life insurance policy, there is what's called a 2-year contestability period. That's a federal mandate. All insurance companies nationwide, I don't care what state you're in. That means if a person dies within the first 2 years, they have the right to go back and investigate, re-answer those health questions that were answered. And let's say, for instance, one of the questions said, have you ever had a broken left pinky toe? Now listen, where have you ever? That means your lifetime. You 50 years old. You broke that toe when you were 5 years old. Trust me, they can find the medical record that shows you broke that left pinky toe. And then if you answer that question no, guess what? They have the right to rescind. Rescind means they do not have to pay the policy. They'll return your premium. Some companies will give you 3, 4, 5% on your money because you answered that question incorrectly. Now, sometimes it's intentional, but you probably forgot. But ours have no health questions. So therefore, there's nothing to contest. So ours is 100% guaranteed issue. If you signed up, the policy is effective on the 1st of the month, and you died on the 2nd, whatever happened, accident, sickness, whatever, the claim is payable, 100%.
And if you were ill when you got the policy and you died 2 days later,
after all the policies are always effective the 1st of the month,
and it was a result of whatever that pre-existing illness that you had, the policy is still going to pay out.
Okay, that's correct.
because there were no health
Health question.
questions
There's
in.
nothing to contest.
And the reason that I wanted to stay there for a minute is because there are so many people in our community
Mm-hmm.
that have, what were those top statistics? What were
Oh,
those?
you're talking about heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes.
And are those automatic knockout questions when you're trying to
Yes.
get insurance?
Yes. Now, diabetes, some companies will ask, have you been diagnosed? Sometime they'll put a time period. It may say the last 12 months or 24 months or 5 years. Have you, or before the age of 40? That's a key thing. They
Mm-hmm.
will ask, have you ever been treated for insulin diabetes?
Mm-hmm.
Insulin dependent is automatic knockout. Some will accept you if you're on the medication, and they may ask, okay, let us see your doctor's report. As long as your A1C was under 7, no problem. Or you've never been hospitalized. Okay. But still, diabetes, there's some companies out there, diabetes period, they don't care if you're on medication. It's a knockout question.
And so we have no questions, so there's no knockouts.
There's nothing to be fight.
I was so excited. You probably remember me sitting in Sheila's office that day, like a kid in a candy store, because I had a list of clients who could not get any type of insurance because they had such serious issues, illness, that they could not get anything, and they had no life insurance at all. And so, and and I ran into them because their either sibling or their child was a client. Well, my dad doesn't have any life insurance. He has stage 4 renal failure. Well, you can't, you know what I mean? So I was so ecstatic about that. Now, this isn't just life insurance. It's life insurance with long-term care.
Yeah, correct. Which, in general, in normal situations, those are two separate policies.
Correct.
And again, you have similar issues in that you got 3 groups of people, life insurance. The ones who can afford it and they qualify. Then we got the ones who have the money, but they don't qualify. Then we got the third group, they don't qualify and they don't have the money, but they still want it and or need it.
And need it.
So we have solved all 3 of those issues, because if we'll think back to our beloved President Obama, he did a lot of good things, but the most notable thing I know, certainly in my mind, that he did was passing the Affordable Care Act, or some people know it as Obamacare, where he brought health insurance to 24 million Americans who did not have any health insurance. And half of those 24 million, 12 million, did not qualify under normal circumstances, would not qualify because of why? Pre-existing conditions.
Mm-hmm.
What we are doing is on the same level. We are now bringing something that can help people eliminate a whole list of those healthcare things, hopefully give people longer longevity, better quality of life in the products and services that we're bringing now to the table, because everybody qualifies. All you have to do is be aware of it. We have the resource now. Everybody can come to the well and drink. It's no longer just an exclusive club where, oh, you've got to be this, you got to have that, you got to whatever. It's called, everybody qualifies for this. This is what's huge.
So it's permanent life insurance with long-term care insurance.
Correct.
Just for the people listening, what is, because some people have no idea what long-term care insurance even is, right? Mm-hmm. What is long-term care insurance?
Long-term care. Now, first of all, let me differentiate that between that and disability. Mm-hmm. Disability is, okay, on a lower end scale, you could be someone who had their tonsils taken out. Outpatient surgery, I'm off work for 6, 7, 8 days. Okay, that pays you a portion of your income till you can go back to work. But long-term care, and then of course, maybe a lady has a baby. Okay, she's off work for 4 or 6 or 8 weeks. Okay, pays you till you go back to work. But the more severe things, where you either have to have in-home skilled nursing care or in a skilled nursing care facility, these policies pay you a certain percentage. Like, for example, if you have a $50,000 policy, it gives you $50,000 worth of long-term care. And the way it pays out, it pays you 5 or 6%. You get the choice per month of whatever your face amount is, so you might get $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 per month to be able to pay for that facility where you can get the treatment that's necessary. Now, there are without getting too technical here, to qualify, there's what's called 5 assisted daily living activities, or in the insurance industry, we call them ADLs. That means, can you feed yourself, dress yourself, get in and out of a bed, in and out of a chair, or do your toiletries? A doctor has to say that you cannot do 2 of those 5 things. And again, my mother-in-law, completely, she was 5 of 5. She couldn't feed herself, she couldn't move, she couldn't dress, couldn't do her toiletries. She's more than qualified.
Okay.
Same thing with my mother.
I was just at a with some family, and my cousin's wife, they take care of her mother, who's in that situation that you just said. Dementia, she's at the point where she can't do anything. So care is 24/7, right? If she had this policy, the life with the long-term care, once it's in effect, she can pull money down for that long-term care.
Yes.
Like, I know.
I got to double check. You know what? One little thing. There is a waiting period on that. I can't remember if it's like 30 or 60 days. I forgot on that.
But even still, if it's 30 or 60, and that's, you just have to wait for that to be able to pull down, as opposed to not having any insurance to ever pull down. Like, it gives you a break. And she doesn't have anybody coming in to help her. They are 24/7. They take care of her. She can't feed herself. She can't do any of the ADLs. None of them. So this thing is so powerful. Okay. We talked a little bit about the cancer policy. Tell me also, though, because that cancer policy also pays those.
There's what's called the 29 specified disease benefits.
Thank you.
Aside from cancer, for example, if a person is diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, meningitis, hepatitis, sickle cell anemia, lupus, very common, meningitis, mad cow disease, Lou Gehrig's disease. Like I said, there's 29 of them. I don't remember all of the time, but those are the majors. But if you're talking about our people, certainly lupus, and I know some people lupus, and sickle cell anemia. I used to work with a guy. And also, another report I have about the 7 deadliest diseases in the Black community, sickle cell is number 8. They give it an honorable mention. There's people pass from that. It pays you $400 per day if you're hospitalized due to any one of those things. Because usually if you have those things, you are going to be hospitalized.
But does it also pay a lump sum if you're diagnosed?
No, not on those. That's $400 a day if you're hospitalized due to any of those particular ones.
Yeah, that's huge, because if I'm hospitalized, some people can't work if they're hospitalized or need whatever else, somebody to take care of
you there for a week, $400 a day, we're talking $2,800.
Yeah. Which can be used for something. And usually if you're hospitalized, then you come home, you're not going right back to work, right? In 2020, I had a ruptured appendix. And I was in the hospital for a week, but I was off work for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And like, initially I couldn't do all of those ADLs, but I didn't have anything like this either. Right. No type of policies, nothing that's paying me for hospitalization, none of that. And I always say, like, my daughter is 23. And if something happened to me, would she take care of me? Would she do all of the things? She absolutely would, but I wouldn't want her to give up her life in order to do that. And
she would still have to, you still had to have, because obviously somebody 23, we know the average 23-year-old don't have the resources, but even if you have the resource, she at least has to administer it. Okay, I've got access to mama's account. I can be her power of attorney, whatever, so I can pay these bills. But if you have nothing there's nothing for her to administer.
Nothing for her.
So you still can't get the care. And young people out there who's ever listening, I'm talking about if you're 18 plus, don't think this is for, you wait to the people, you got a head full of gray hair, you 50, 60, 70 years old. No, you can be 22 years old, riding your motorcycle, riding your skateboard, riding your bike, playing basketball, or just plain acting a fool. You get in an accident, slip and fall, boom, you paralyzed from the neck down. Guess what? You just encountered a long-term care situation.
Yeah.
So this is not solely for somebody out there who thinks that, I got time, I don't need that till I get 55 years old. No. Everybody needs it.
I'm glad you brought it up, because everything with insurance, the earlier you get it, the less expensive it is.
Right. And the price is locked in.
Right.
Because a buddy of mine who I know is in the industry, great guy, his uncle was in it and taught him about it. He said at 18 years old, he had him buy $1 million life house. He like, uncle, I don't even know. At that time, he didn't know nothing about it. You know, we're thinking about playing basketball. But his uncle knew, said, look, first of all, get this $1 million life policy. Because one day you're going to be able to get married and have a family.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because you're young, you know you're going to pass with flying color because he was a great kid, great shape.
Exactly.
So it was a no-brainer, you know, do all the blood and urine tests you want to. And the main thing, it was dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
He barely might have been paying $100 a month for $1 million worth of life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? Fast forward 7 years later, he's married. A couple years later, him and Lisa had a couple children, beautiful children. Now, heaven forbid, if something happens to brother, wife and kids taken care of.
Yeah.
We always used to have a joke about an older gentleman we knew. He used to, his line was, when he said, when he's talking to a lady at the kitchen table, said, you don't want to have to marry some snaggletooth dude so your child can stay in private school and you can stay in this house. Right? So put some life insurance on that brother, because other than that, you gonna marry. If he died, you got to go marry some old snaggletooth Ray so that you keep up your lifestyle. But being on a serious note, again, being young and healthy, that's the time to get it. Like anything, it's easier to go to the bank and get a loan when you don't need the money.
Correct.
That's the time you go do it just for the heck of it, so you can build up a credit rating.
That's right.
Reputation. Right. And again, like I said, you got to look at when you're young, you more prone to an accident. You can be in your house from getting up from watching the game. I'm going to the Sound Kitchen to make me a sandwich. Trip and fall on the way to the kitchen. Boom, snap your neck. You paralyzed. Guess what? Long-term care situation.
Yep.
And for those out there who might say, well, thank you, that sounds nice, but I don't need it. I already got life insurance. But I'm going to ask you this question. I already know the answer. Do you have long-term care? Mm-mm. All the Black people and African Americans in the United States, I don't forget how many millions of us it is, less than 7% of us have long-term care.
Yep.
And it's not that we can't afford it. Cut that in half. It ain't that we can't. Most of them aren't even aware of it. They're not fully understanding it. Don't think you need it, but unfortunately, you don't find out you need it until you get in that situation.
You need it.
And for much as I may have known about it, done it, written the policies, kind of slipped, I was reminded last year when I saw the stress of what my wife was going through and her sister. Yeah. And this is in spite of having 7 brothers and sisters now. So we ain't just talking about his only kids, but that's another sermon. We went to
that happens in everybody's family. There's the one or two that's gonna do all of the work, they're gonna do all of the things, and then there's the other ones who don't. And so, like you said,
around their hand out. And in the midst of that, my wife and I got a flyer, and I said it was about retirement, but it also part of it was about home care, long-term care. And I said, man, we need to go to this. So it wasn't with the enticement of the steak dinner, because the steak was tough. Man, I just want the information, okay? But one of the things they talked about was the effect on a caregiver. We blew us away. They said a lot of caregivers, if you care for somebody for at least a year, it shaves 5 to 10 years of life off of your lifespan.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, they said there have been caregivers, a far good percentage, who've passed before the person that they were cared for because of the stress that they were under trying to take care of them.
And we understand what stress just will do to you.
Stress, silent killer.
It is the silent killer. Okay. The one with the policy we didn't talk about. So we talked about the life insurance with long-term care. We talked about the cancer policy. Now let's talk about the critical illness policy.
Critical illness, that's a plan that pays you a lump sum of $20,000 in the event of a heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, Alzheimer's, dementia, loss of sight, hearing, ability to speak, or paralysis. And it doesn't pay, it pays out. Now, the old days when I started back 20-some years ago, that plan paid out one time. It was like a life policy. You only paid out one time. That was it. Okay. So you can, but now it has what's called the subsequent and recurrent benefit, whereby you had a heart attack. Okay. Let's say after 9 months have passed. If you have another one, it will pay you again. Or let's say you have a heart attack. Then next year you have a stroke. That's another benefit. It pays consistent more than once. So each time, not that you want have multiple things. But in
Right.
the event you do, it pays a lump sum of 20,000. And by the way, all the money's tax free too. By the way, so it ain't like it's $20,000 minus 30% taxes.
Right.
So that's really $14,000. No, it's 100% tax free.
And I literally thought about all of the people who, because someone's saying, yeah, but I have disability at work, but that isn't extra. That's a part of your income. You get a percentage. You don't even get your
You're
full.
that's insuring your paycheck, right?
Yeah.
Maximum in Michigan is 68 and 2/3%.
So yeah, that doesn't pay your, so now when we talk about almost 70% of people in the US are living paycheck to paycheck, right? So now you have something, and yep, you're on long-term disability or even short-term disability from work. It's paying not your whole paycheck. You were living paycheck to paycheck first.
Right.
You're getting less.
If you were barely getting about 100% of your paycheck, now you're only getting 65% of your paycheck. Do the math.
Because it doesn't math.
Right.
And now to be able to, and for those individuals who are self-employed, if you're not hunting, you're not eating. So now you can't do a thing, which means you can't earn any money. You never had any type of disability insurance in place. Now you're getting nothing.
Right. Which means you're not only going to lose your house, but you're about to lose your business too. And although this is slightly a different thing for business owner, you're talking about not only insurance on the disability, but there's something called BOE, business operating expense. You need insurance on the business as well, because again, you happen to be a minority that one of these things happen here. And talk about statistics. And I don't want to stray from this. I do just want to quickly mention this. This report by blackdoctor.org said the 7 deadliest diseases in the Black community. Number 7, diabetes. 60% more common in Blacks than whites. And Blacks have more serious complications such as loss of vision, loss of limbs, kidney failure. Our answer to that, we've got the long-term care, life with the long-term care, and the critical illness, which pays for kidney failure, $20,000. Number 6. Number 6 is asthma. Then number 5 is sarcoidosis, which is scarring of the lungs. In fact, that's what killed Bernie Mac. But number 4, lung cancer. Number 3, stroke. And this is something. Stroke kills 4 times more 35 to 54-year-old Black Americans than it does white America. And Blacks have nearly twice the first-time stroke risk of whites. Number 2, Jesus. Heart disease. One of the significant factors of heart disease is high blood pressure. Blacks develop high blood pressure earlier in life and with a much higher blood pressure levels than whites. According to the American Heart Association, the prevalence of high blood pressure in African Americans is the highest in the world. We ain't talking about the east side. We ain't talking about the west side. We ain't just talking about Wayne County, Oakland County. We ain't talking about Michigan. We ain't talking about the United States. We talking about the world. Come on, y'all. Okay. And then we are 40% more likely to have high blood pressure than non-Hispanic whites, and African American women are 60% more likely. And then lastly, cancer, number 1 killer. African Americans have the highest rates of getting and dying from many types of cancer in any other racial and ethnic group in the world. We've been diagnosed at a much higher rate, and we have the shorter survival rate. And a lot of it has to do with the fact even with health insurance, you may not have that extra money to pay for those co-pays and deductibles to get that experimental treatment. Because again, back to the cancer, it pays you $5,000 for an experimental treatment.
And let's think about this too, because I've literally heard people say that they can't do holistic healing, even though they know that it works. They can't do it because they can't afford to pay out of pocket for the holistic, because the insurance companies aren't paying for that. So now if you're getting money because you have one of these policies, you now have the money to do that sort of treatment because you can pull the money down in order to pay for that.
Correct. We're trying to take the E out of excuse. For those who tried to come up with every excuse, I've heard. In fact, I saw somebody post something on Facebook about life insurance is worth it. And I'm, no, it's a scam. Blah 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 blah. And I said, I couldn't help. I tried not to get no little piggyback. But that's the thing about okay. Like one of my first things I always tell everybody, quoting from Hosea, the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. The King James Version says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Life insurance is like a tool in your toolbox. There are many different types of life insurance. It depends on what you need it for. If you're looking about, I want to pay for funeral, okay, they call that final expense. You just want $10,000. We ain't talking no $5,000 policy. We talking about at least $10,000.
You can't have no kind of funeral.
No, I mean even cremation now done creeped up
Right.
and stuff. But then you have them. There are tools that are used to create generational wealth. Now we start talking about index universal lives and all that. There's something above a lot of people's knowledge of what's taught or what information is out there. Because I became aware of it just 3-4 years ago. It's been around for about 20 years now, but from a friend of mine whose uncle been in the business 45 years as a financial planner. He told his nephew, who's my friend, and he told me, and his uncle, by the way, all of his clients, you must have a minimum of $5 million net worth, or he won't talk to you. If you come in there with $4,999,99, don't get you another dollar and come back, then I'll talk to you. Okay?
That's what you said. You saw on Facebook where someone said it's a scam, right? Mm-hmm. It just shows. Like, yes, I'm a life insurance agent. Yes, I'm a financial strategist. I do a lot of financial strategy. One of the things that I do the most is educating and getting people to understand why they operate the way that they do with their finances, right? So when these things haven't been taught to us, we don't know, right? And then there is also a value. You go buy a house, you have to have insurance for that house. You go buy a car, if you have to have insurance for that car. And even like when you said people have insurance for their cell phones, but there's no insurance on your life. It's like, where's the value that you see in yourself that says, okay, if something happens to me, right, my worth, my value is now gone. My family, what happens to my family? Like, I think it's, and if you say, you know what, I don't want to use any other type of insurance. I don't want to pass down any money to because I've heard people say that, which I observe. But if you don't want to do any of that, at least have enough for them to bury you. And one of these type of policies that if something happens to you and you need someone to take care of you, you are not a burden on someone else, or you do not cause hardship,
right,
for someone else. And I just
which definitely happens every day. In fact, a young lady I met with yesterday, I've known her because she used to be one of my agents, worked for me about 15 years ago. And anyway, she started when I was talking to her about what we're doing. She started telling me, I didn't know this, that she was married. Her husband worked for the city. She had a cancer policy. Her husband, who used chewing tobacco, she said that she told him he needed to get this. He was like, "Nah, I don't need that. That's a waste of money." And she kept saying, "No, you need to get this." Blah, blah. And not that she knew that he wasn't predisposed. It wasn't like it ran his family. Don't you know, 6 months later, he was diagnosed with cancer. She said they ended up losing a $350,000 home. They obviously had to file for bankruptcy. Her 2 retirement accounts she had a 6-figure account that was wiped out. It was gone, taking care of him.
It's expensive.
And they had health insurance full time. He had a good job with the city of Detroit. It made no difference. They were broke. And she said, we ended up homeless.
It's expensive to be sick.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
It ain't no joke.
Sick. Tell the statistic about what percentage of people who filed bankruptcy filed because
I was getting ready to get to that.
Okay.
Last year in 2023, we couldn't get out of here without saying that. Last year in 2023, 2 million people filed for bankruptcy. 70%, 1.4 million of those people was for medical bills. And of those medical bills, most of the case, more than 50% was for the top things we just got through talking about: heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes. And of those 70% who filed, 1.4 million. 75% of those people had full-time year-round health insurance. We're not talking about somebody broke and indigent and, ain't got nothing. No, we talking about middle-class America, some of us in the suburbs with our 2 cars, the picket fence, the 2 kids, a dog, we might have us, we got the premium cable channels, but we that do not have that that defile bankruptcy. And then what happens, they said nearly 10 million adults with year-round health insurance will still accumulate medical bills that they cannot pay off this year. And one more, NerdWallet found 15 million people will deplete their savings to cover medical bills, and another 10 million will be unable to pay for necessities such as rent, food, and utilities because of those bills.
So,
mic drop.
Talking about this sort of thing is difficult for some because they then are looking, at their life, their illness. They start to think about, at some point, and I always say everyone has a date that they're gonna, transition to the spirit world. So, and we don't know the time, the hour, the minute, or the day of that. I think insurance is a responsible thing to do.
Yes.
Even if you're not even thinking about passing down any type of generational wealth, insurance is a responsible thing to do. Now, these rates are really, really affordable because, tell us why.
It is a group. You're part of a group. Because we're talking about, we're not just, the insurance company has a term called spreading the risk. Yeah. If you happen to be, let's just say, I'll just use our account we have with the Detroit Board of Education. We're talking about if there was 30,000 employees, technically, if you signed up for a policy and passed, or they had to pay out $30,000 a week or a month later, they really didn't make money on you. They've got another 29,999 other people they can go make it up for. Mm-hmm. That's called spreading the risk. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's just individual, that's why it's more difficult to buy a policy. If you just call up some insurance agents and they come to your house and their policy is just written on you individually, usually their rate is higher and you have to go through more stringent underwriting to get qualified. It ain't about just answering the test. Some of them on a $10,000 policy, they want blood, urine, and doctor's exams. Absolutely. So, but now we're talking about you happen to be one of some 5,000 or 6,000, six-figure number of people. So now the risk is spread. That's how they're able to, and that's how I was able to negotiate this when I went to the insurance company, promising them that these are the people we're going to talk to. So what we're doing is now offering through associations, which is unprecedented. Insurance companies like to deal with payroll deducted, W-2, employer-employee relationships. That's what they deal with. Why? So they can get their money payroll deducted. Okay, but we have it set up to where we make it easy for everyone to pay for it. You get to choose your method, either a draft from your checking, savings, credit card, or debit card. You can decide to pay once a week. You can pay bi-weekly. You can pay once a month. You get to choose what day of the week you want to come out of. So we've made it as easy as it can possibly be. So we've covered all the bases, and we've got a top enrollment firm company who's nationwide. One of the tops in the country, and the insurance carrier. So everything is perfectly fit in place. That's what allowed us to do this. So even that, bringing the numbers, they had to, and then they took into account my relationship in the business. And just so happened, I have a relationship with the 2 other people in the enrollment firm and the third-party minister who collects the money and sends it to the insurance carrier. So all of that had to come into play for all this to happen. And like I said, it's just truly God. Truly God.
Truly God, and your obedience in being, in fighting, in going and saying, hey, this is what I want, and I'm not settling for anything less than that. You covered all of the bases. You thought of all of the things, especially all of the things that are specific in our community, which, like, I commend you for that, and I'm forever grateful for that. Now, we had that little chit chat in Sheila's office.
Right.
Game. And we are now at the point where can you get that? Where can you go to get the coverage? And this is an interesting story. So I have an organization called the Amazing Woman Network that is my assignment. It was given to me many, many years ago. And our pillars are reclaiming personal power, mind, body, and spirit. Well, it's uniting and empowering Black women globally under the pillars of reclaiming personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming our financial power, and increasing our social involvement. And when we were setting up, this was probably 2016, 2017, and we were getting together and putting the bylaws together and all of these things. One of the things that I said I wanted to do was to be able to offer insurance benefits through the Amazing Woman Network.
Look at God.
Right?
Look at God.
Because I know, and I knew then, and I wasn't even an agent then, but I knew then that I knew the lack of insurance in our community, and I know Black women lead the charge on things like this.
Yeah.
Gonna make sure, my family has this. I'm gonna do the things right.
Right.
And Black women, there's probably a statistic somewhere, I know I saw it, being the number one caregiver for, right? So I knew then that I wanted to offer life insurance. And so then now, 2024, I sit here and we get to offer this powerful policy through the Amazing Woman Network. You talk about a blessing. Like, I would have never have thought, because then in my mind, it was just enough to be able to bury somebody, those people that did not have any type of burial coverage, couldn't get it, whatever. But now to be able to offer all of this.
Yeah. And that's part of the mythology, the false mythology in our community. We're trained to thought that, like I say, I done heard my daddy didn't leave me nothing. I ain't leaving nobody else nothing. I done heard, the scripture tells you a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Yeah, I got some other for I ain't leaving them nothing. Okay. And I'm talking Christians. Okay. Yeah. Bible told and tongue talking. Yeah. But this is again a combination. This is again to show you, and I read this somewhere before and I've experienced it, how look at all the things that had to come together. We ain't talking about you went to McDonald's and ordered number 3 combination and here it is. No, we talking about all that, the combination of you and Owen, our friend Sheila, my relationship with her, this coming together, the stuff I had to do to make this come together. And then it's like, okay, I got this. Now I need to get to the right people so we can get this out to the masses. And then boom, somehow we get connected and then click just like that. Like we say, peanut butter and jelly. I told you I don't like peanut butter, but I love you, though. That's another story. I'm the president of the Crystal Gun Fan Club, okay? Chairman and CEO, okay?
It's something that was destined to happen, right? And so I cannot leave that story like on the table. How there's somebody out there that's saying, oh, I've spoken this thing, I want it to happen, and it hasn't happened yet. But what I know is nothing happens until the exact moment that it was supposed to happen, right? So this is that exact moment that was supposed to happen. It was something that was put in my spirit so long ago. But everything that has happened since then was priming the way for this. And so
I say about a lot of things that go on in our life, and I've had couple experiences and I had to look back. There was so much I learned during that, it was a crisis, one of the biggest things of my life that I was going through, but little did I know I was being prepared for where I'm sitting here now. I was ended up in a home going for 6 figures here, had a successful business, then through some mess, end up getting charged with some mess that I didn't do, ended up homeless in Texas. I'm sitting in a homeless shelter and I would still go by the housing rack, this house, and I'm looking at 4, 5, 6 bedroom homes. And the guys would walk by like, Negro, what you looking at that stuff for? You're gonna be here 5 years from now, you're gonna be in this shelter with us. Okay. Then when everything culminated, I ended up coming back to Michigan. Guess what happened within a year? Boom. Started my insurance career, 4 or 5 bedroom home, new cars in the garage, bank account, bills paid.
All of the things.
New wife.
You're doing such good work. This just falls in line. I have a double bottom line philosophy that I learned from somebody 10, 12 years ago. And it's just something that just stuck with me. Make a profit and make a difference. Everything that I do doesn't make a profit because it's not supposed to. Some of the things I do are strictly philanthropic, but everything that I do makes a difference. And this is one of those things where I get that double bottom line philosophy where I get to make a profit and I get to make a difference. And if you know me, like making the difference to me is, I mean, it's what we're here for.
And one of the things you heard me say this, and I'll say this certainly to the audience, and I hope it resonates with everybody. Yes, this is an insurance policy, but our main mantra of what we're doing, and this dropped in my spirit, was told, and it's very deep. Our goal is to save lives and protect people from financial bankruptcy and ruin, because that's what these policies are doing. Because that healthcare disparity, as we said, it's bad enough to be sick. And like I said, it was reinforced when I talked to a colleague yesterday. I didn't even know this story. Here she, when you see her, she looks well, always nicely dressed, has a special needs child, had a lovely home. Husband gets sick. They end up being homeless, filing bankruptcy. She lost 2 6-figure retirement accounts. 0. Gone because of this. Whereas if she'd had what we have now, none of that would have happened to her.
We cannot stop the illness.
Yeah, we cannot stop the illness, but we can give you the tools to provide the best care possible aside from your insurance. That's what these policies do. They're designed to do. And then, of course, like we said, for those people who don't have something like that resource, because remember, everybody don't have $1 million bank account sitting there waiting to take care of in case I get diagnosed with cancer, or whatever, heart attack, strokes, whatever. Right. And then we talking about now, but then you talking about the financial ruin. Oh, Jesus. And of course, their marriage got dissolved. They end up filing, divorce because finances cause a whole major domino thing to fall. So that's what we're doing in a nutshell. And again, continuing serving people, and everything else is falling in line. That's why I know it's amazing. Like I said, Crystal, I can't tell you the stuff, meeting you, some other people, the culmination of meeting the relationship that I established years ago with the people we now helped us bring this whole thing together. It's like going full circle.
Yeah. So you can go to Amazing Woman, WOMAN network.com/insurance to find out more information, to schedule a time to talk to a certified benefits counselor who will give you all of the information. There's videos, there's brochures. Go check it out, but do not continue to think that it's something that you don't need. I have to show this, and for those who watch all the time, you see I put this up often. The trouble is you think you have time. Exactly. Right? And you don't know how many people I hear that come to workshops that I do, and they're telling a story, and often it's, I thought I had more time to do whatever the thing is, right? And it's just like, we don't know what's going to happen and when we walk out that door. It's important to protect ourselves and put ourselves in a situation, again, we can't keep you from getting sick. We don't have that, but we can help you get better care and not wind up in financial ruin because of the illness. Thank you so much, Gerald,
and certainly I thank you. I truly thank you.
Doing this, for creating and fighting for this policy, for coming on here to talk about it. I'm so looking forward to the impact that we have. Please leave us with whatever final words you would like.
For those out there, all I can say is, again, I just want to say thank you for running into being introduced to this wonderful woman, Crystal Gunn. So those who are not members of her network, please, as the scripture tells us, my people perish for lack of knowledge. We sometimes be the last ones to get in on something. And time we get on it, it's already a new thing. That's outdated information. But you have to stay on top of getting information, associating yourself with people of the caliber of what Crystal's doing, who are trying to do something to help people, because it'll only better your life. It's not a competition, and they're not trying to put you down. No haters out there. It's about trying to help you. Look at it in love. So.
Thank you so much. That link will be in the description below. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you again, Gerald, and we will see you next time.
All right. I thank you as well. God bless you.
Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Be sure to join me for the private online Q&A immediately following. The link is in the description. And If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn notifications on so you never miss this opportunity. Thank you again, and I will see you